Some fancy economist, I think from Barclays, this morning said they thought the Fed was going to raise rates by 3/4 of a percentage point on Wednesday. I think they're wrong. I think we have a better chance that the Fed may only raise by 1/4 of a point. I'm not saying I absolutely think that's the case, but I'm going to lay out the reasons why to you in this video that I think the Fed could be very close to a dovish tilt. But first, this is a big week. It's Fed week, and everyone is worried about inflation. It's become the word of the month. It's the headline news type situation. Everybody's talking about it. The markets are getting clobbered. I think in the last 3 days, the S&P 500 is down probably 8% or more. The price of gold and silver, I'm disappointed, I have to admit, this morning. They are also getting clobbered. I mean, not a complete slaughter, but a clobbering. I was really optimistic that the precious metals were going to start acting inversely to the general markets and that we had turned a corner. That doesn't appear to have happened, at least not by what we're seeing this morning. But let's dig in to why I believe that we may only have a 1/4% hike later this week. Now, let me start with a story. Do you want a story? Everybody loves a good story. You and I work at the Ford plant. We work on the assembly line. We make about $100,000 per year. We have essentially the same salary. I put on the right tire, you put on the left tire, whatever. But we essentially have the same job. We make $100K a year, okay? You have some debt. You have about $30,000 in revolving credit debt with a floating rate based on the prevailing interest rates. I've not been quite so responsible. I have $130,000 in debt, okay? So my debt to income is about 130%. Your debt to income is about 30%. And coincidentally, that kind of matches the debt to GDP levels in the United States in the 1970s, which was about 30% debt to GDP, and today, which is about, the government debt is about 130% of GDP. I'm the lucky one. You decided to join me today in the basement. I'm glad you're here. I get lonely down here by myself, so thank you for deciding to spend some of your time with me. If you enjoy my content, you can give me a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, hit the little bell notification so you get alerted every time I put out a video. But according to Google Analytics, you are part of an elite crowd. The intelligence level of my average viewer is much higher than normal. I know that some of the concepts that I dive into can be a little intellectually challenging from time to time. So I always appreciate hearing your feedback in the comment section below. Now, this is the point I want to drive home. If rates go up significantly, okay, you aren't going to be affected as much as I am. At 30,000, let's say rates go up by 4%. You are incurring an additional $1,200 per year in interest expense. Sure, it's going to eat into your ability to spend, but not as significantly as me, where 4% on 130,000 is, I believe, $5,200. It's a much higher number, and that's the situation we have right now in the United States. Not to mention, we have super high elevated levels of corporate debt, mortgage debt, municipal debt, credit card debt. All that debt, which is being priced higher, is going to limit the amount of money that people have left over, that governments have left over, that businesses have left over to spend, okay? The economy, the point here, is being grinded to a halt. And the point here also is that because of these super high debt levels, like the example I gave you with the $30,000 debt guy, Mr. 1970s, that's you, and the $130,000 debt guy, Mr. 2022, that's me, right? Like, that reduces the amount of money when you have so much more debt, just in a numbers term, that you're able to spend on goods and services. So right now, we are in a situation where people and business and government's disposable income is being reduced, while at the same time, the prices, the costs for the things that everybody needs to buy, gas, food, shelter, are going up. The economy is being ground to a halt. It didn't take as much of a rise in interest rates to affect it because the level of debt was so much higher on all those different areas. The economy is slowing significantly. Now there's a bonus kicker involved too. The general market already raised the rates for the Fed. Look at the 10-year bond rate. It was like 0.5% just a couple years ago. This morning, it's at 3.25%. The market, the bond market, has already raised rates. And we've got this severely slowing economy. I may be wrong, but I don't know, and I don't know what you think, but I just cannot see the Fed raising rates 0.75%. The Fed's in a position now where if they continue to raise rates aggressively, they'll send the economy into a severe recession, maybe a depression. But they're stuck because if they become too dovish at the same time, the inflation numbers are going to go out of control. They're on a teeter-totter, but it's a real ugly teeter-totter at a haunted playground. So Fed Week's going to be real interesting. We'll see what happens Wednesday, but I'm calling for as much of a chance of a 0.25% increase in rates as the supposed fancy economist from Barclays who says 0.75 point. The other thing we need to bear in mind is the political angle going on. We have midterm elections coming up in November, okay? And we have a Federal Reserve president, Jerome Powell, who's a Republican. Now, that may play into this whole situation. He may know that his days are numbered. I have a theory that in the next couple of months, he's going to get fired by Joe Biden, and they're going to put Lael Broward in. So maybe he'll just go guns blazing. I'll say it that way. Maybe he will do a 0.75% hike. Maybe he's a Republican. Maybe he says, yeah, I'll really screw the economy right before these elections, and that'll help the Republicans. I don't know. I don't rule out anything with these conniving people. We'll see what happens. I appreciate you being here. Thanks for joining me in Ron's Basement. I'll look forward to seeing you again soon.